I know that you can't really answer this question, but would you love to play for Denver someday?
I can absolutely answer this question.
You heard it here first, everybody. The SheBelieves Cup kicks off tonight, and whether or not you all realize it, we just hit our 1-year anniversary here at the women's game. So in honor of all of that, it seems only fitting that we have our very first women's game podcast guest back on the show, Lindsey Heaps, formerly known as the great Lindsey Heaps, Olympic Lyonnais star and captain of the gold medal winning U.S. women's national team. Lindsey, welcome back.
Thank you so much. Do we do this every year now?
Oh my God, can we?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would make me so happy. I'm going to pencil you in for February 2026.
Perfect.
Well, it feels like so much has happened since you were here last year. We're going to get into all of it. There's a bunch of U.S. players moving to Europe, this year's race for the Champions League, and then the gold medal win from last summer, and of course, how the U.S. women's national team is feeling heading into SheBelieves. But I want to start with the change in your life that is closest to home. You got married. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So many weddings this December.
Oh my gosh, there was so many weddings this December. I know you married your now husband Tyler just before the new year. It looked so beautiful. It was in your home state of Colorado. The pictures were stunning. You were stunning. And I'm so obsessed that the dance floor was just packed with soccer stars. And I feel like everybody wants to know, like, was anybody talking shop out there on the dance floor trying to get Naomi to different clubs in between, Black Eyed Peas jams?
Honestly, I was having the time of my life, so I did not know what was going on. But I was like, I really hope these guys are getting along. And then at one point that everyone was on stage, I was like, holy crap, that like Lyon girls mixed with national team players. What is happening? But they were all like, and I saw like Soph and Nay talking to Dan in like a very long discussion in the middle of dance time. And I was like, what's happening? Enough.
What's happening?
Dance time.
Yeah. Enough chatter. Let's get dancing. How was the wedding overall?
Sam, amazing.
Oh.
You know when they say like, just like make sure you eat, like make sure you have fun, like it's so stressful for a bride, all this stuff. I'm like, what? That did not happen for me.
So like you ate plenty, you mean?
I ate so much. Tyler and I both ate so much that like his stomach was so messed up prior to the after party, and he missed out on the chicken fingers. The one thing that he
Tyler.
requested, like the only part that he helped in the planning was getting the chicken fingers.
So no stress. You ate a ton of food. You talked to everybody. You had a blast.
Yeah. And like the welcome party the night before really helped because you gotta, speak to everyone. And then the wedding, I was like, Ty, I'm enjoying myself. You can join with me or not.
Were you like absolutely busting a move out there?
Yeah. Ask our teammates.
So after all of your beautiful, beautiful wedding festivities, you headed back to France and Lyon. You've played for Lyon since 2022. Lyon is the most winning team in the Premier League in France, and you've helped them to win the Coupe de France Feminine and the Champions League. But you and your team kicked off the year with a new achievement. It happened in the stands, actually. You beat your rivals, PSG, in front of a record-setting 20,489 fans. I'd love for you to take us back to that moment. What did it feel like to walk out on the field in front of all those people knowing that it was a record-setting crowd?
It's amazing. I think, one, we always talk about this is where women's football is going, but I think in France it was slowly starting to happen, and it's been pretty unfortunate because it's not good enough here. And I think us and PSG were really trying to set that standard. And there's actually, I think the cooler, you expect that from these two teams, like, and especially when we play against each other, but there's teams like Strasbourg and Nantes where like Lyon or PSG is coming to their stadium. They're hosting us in, their big stadium. I don't want to say men's stadium, but it's the men's stadium, and they're getting, close to sellout crowds. And I think that is really, really special and cool. And then, these lower teams that have been coming through and trying to, make statements here in France, like people are seeing them and people are getting to know the players. And that's for me, what's been more special because it hasn't been like a drastic difference from when I was at PSG. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're you're noticing maybe subtle or smaller, but noticeable changes in maybe the culture around the acceptance of women's football and the excitement from the fans. Especially, you mentioned you played in PSG, but all the way back in 2012, Lindsay. Wow, we're getting old.
What?
Oh my
What's
God. You were still a teenager, but we know you didn't have the easiest time. You were struggling with body shaming, a toxic coaching environment, and you went through a really difficult time. You came back to the NWSL, and now you're back in France. You're playing for Lyon. We talked about kind of a culture change in France and in you know, the fan culture in France. But what about for you? Like, you've persevered through a lot. Your career has gone through all these ups and downs, but now you're back playing in the Premier League. What kind of growth have you seen in yourself?
Like, me coming back here, I wanted to make an impact in a different way. And, you know, my experience last time was my experience last time. This is a whole new experience. And what am I going to get out of it? It's not me just like waiting till the end of my contract to go back home. Like, I really want to make a stamp here. And I'm playing for consistently one of the best teams in the world. And I get to be a part of that. And I get to train with these players every single day. I know I'm older, but like, I can still get better and I can still challenge myself. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. And then it's kind of also turned into this, you know, I'm a leader and a veteran for the national team now, so they kind of expect that for me at Lyon, and that was like kind of presented right away. And I was like, this is insane, coming from where I was at PSG to that girl, and then coming here for Lyon, and now I'm like one of the leaders, and, you know, not captains, but, you know, in the leadership group and being a big presence here at Lyon. That's probably the most remarkable thing for me. And I'm very honored to have that role, especially, you know, in a different country and a different culture and with these kind of players. So that's been the experience for me, getting to know that kind of role on a team like this as well.
For sure. I have a lot more questions about leadership coming up, but I do want to touch on Champions League really quick. We know that the quarterfinals are coming up. And Lyon is the most successful club in Champions League history. The club has won 8 times. But there are a lot of other great teams in the tournament right now. Arsenal, Barcelona, Wolfsburg, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Man City, Chelsea. All of these teams are real contenders, which I do think speaks to the growth of the women's game in Europe and how this is going to be a really competitive tournament moving forward from this quarterfinal draw. It's exactly what players want, kind of like a World Cup or Olympics. It's better that it's this competitive. Everyone has a shot at winning. I'm curious how Lyon is preparing for these upcoming quarterfinal legs.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny the other day before the draw. People were like, "Oh, who do you want?" And I'm like, there's no like good team to draw. Like, it's what you just said. What a cool thing to say. It's like every team is so dominant now in their respective leagues and now in Europe and in Champions League. So that's really special. But I think for us, a lot of Lyon is like focusing on us and our game. And I think Joe's done a good job of recognizing that, like, we need to get back to, hey, what's our Lyon style? How can we be super influential in these games and make sure that we utilize our strengths as much as possible, but by respecting the opponent as well. Obviously we have some emphasis on them, but more emphasis on what we're doing and how we're controlling games, because that's the Lyon way.
How do you balance your regular season, like your domestic season and then other domestic cups, plus international duty where you're about to be away for a week and a half in America, with Champions League? I feel, of course, you want to win everything and be your best for everything. As a player, I found it hard to balance all of those priorities. How do you, as Lindsay, take each thing as it comes, knowing that, you know, Champions League is looming and the national team is looming?
Well, this is really unfortunate, but we went out of French Cup round of 32.
I know. I'm really sorry about that.
No, it's obviously terrible, and you never want to go out of a cup. But it has given opportunity for rest, and like you just said, there's a lot of games in a season, and you never want to lose. You never want to go out in a way like that, but takes certain positives from it and like, what can we do moving forward? It obviously, I think it helps our team in a certain way, and so I will take that. As many people saw, I was in London a few times, and that was like a nice like mental getaway for me. And I think the biggest challenge has always been like the international travel and how I work with that. And it's hard. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's really, really hard. And I think it's just finding the best system and the best rhythm for every player. I remember speaking to Naomi about this, when she was thinking about coming to Europe, and she's just like, every camp that you come into, like, how hard is it?
Especially going back to the West Coast.
Yeah. But I think Emma does a really good job when we come into camp, especially us Europeans coming back to America. It's really difficult, but she does a good job managing, and I think they do a good job here at Lyon, like listening to what we need. And I think it's just speaking up, like, you need a day. But again, this is also our job. This is part of it. This is why I want to be in Europe, and this is a different kind of mental challenge as well.
You just mentioned speaking with Naomi Girma, as she obviously has just made this move to Chelsea. You've also talked about speaking with Emily Fox about going abroad. Jenna Neiswanger just joined Arsenal. And you're kind of talking about this balance of going back and forth between the national team and Europe. But you now, as a Lyon player, are also going to see all these players potentially further down the line in Champions League. Does it feel at all like, be careful what you wish for now that you've maybe had this little influence on some of your American teammates coming to Europe?
Yeah, I'm like, Nay, why did you choose Chelsea? No, I'm like, I think it's so cool. Like, I think it's really special now. You see these players in Europe, and you get an opportunity to face them. No, do I want to face those guys? Not really, but do I want to go 1v1 against Naomi? Let me try my best.
For sure. And I think you sorry, I'm interrupting you, but like, you also want what's best for the national team. And if this is best for these players that are also on your national team to go and have this international experience, then as captain of the US, of course you're happy.
For them getting the experience of Champions League, it's just different. It's a different tournament, and I want everyone to have that feeling. Maybe it's just me that gets so hyped up on it, but I'm like, it's just a different feeling, and I want everyone to experience that, and there's a lot at stake, and I know that now, being a Lyon player, and how much they value Champions League, and when we go out, it's horrible. So I'm pumped that they get that opportunity.
Do you think that this influx of Americans on England, Europe, Champions League is going to have an impact, and like, what do you see happening or changing?
It's a good question. I think, one, it's just, these players want a different kind of challenge. And from what I understand, and when I spoke to them, it's just, they've done a lot in the NWSL, and I think these opportunities arise, and, sometimes it's just like, why not? And I think it was the same for me. I was in Portland for 6 years, and the opportunity arises for me to go to, one of the best clubs in the world and play in Champions League. I will always go back to that, but it might keep happening. It might not. I think as the NWSL develops as well, like, there's certain things that probably still need to change, and
definitely
maybe that salary cap, maybe et cetera, et cetera. But I do think it is a good thing seeing some players to go challenge themselves here in Europe. And like I said to you before, I also think it's good when you see players that have been here for a really long time, in Lyon even, that are going to experience something different, like Delph and Pearl in San Diego. Like, what a cool thing.
You mentioned, which I agree with, the NWSL is also growing and changing and kind of adding to the things they need to do in order to retain some players and attract some European talent and, global talent. For example, Portland just announced a new training facility. There are 2 expansion teams coming in next year. And your home state of Colorado is getting an NWSL team in Denver.
How amazing.
I know, it's so amazing.
It's so cool.
It's so cool, Lindsey. And we know it was like a competitive bidding process. So Denver coming out on top, I feel like means Denver is prepared and ready to go. You grew up pretty close to the city. What are you excited for about this? What kind of impact do you think that this team will have on Denver?
It makes me a little emotional. I think it's, I watch a lot of, I think Jordan Angeli is very, very involved in this team coming through. At one point I was just like, oh, Denver's not going to get it. Like, I didn't see them in the mix anymore. And then all of a sudden, like, I wake up one morning and it's popping up on my Instagram. I'm like, what the heck happened? But it's so special that Denver's getting a team.
Oh my God.
But like, you grow up there and you give so much to, your clubs and your youth clubs and your training environment. And like, I think Jordan spoke a lot about this in one of her interviews. It's like, now you have a team there and players there. So all of these little girls and little boys even get to look and see this women's professional soccer team there. Like, how special is that? Like, obviously, I wish I had that when I was a little girl, and like going to see those games. Like, how cool could that be?
It's really cool. I feel similarly about hopefully the team in Boston that's entering the same year. I really want these new expansion teams to understand the league, understand their fan bases, and to have a lot of success. And I have a similar emotional connection to the Boston area. I know that you can't really answer this question, but would you love to play for Denver someday?
I can absolutely answer this question.
You heard it here first, everybody.
I think anyone would want to go play for their respective hometown team. That would be really, I mean, I think it would just be cool. Like, my parents don't have to fly to a game, and my whole family could come. Yeah, I think it would be so special.
That would be amazing.
If they want me.
I think that they'll want you, and I want to come see the first game with Lindsey Heaps in a Denver jersey. That would be so cool. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
Okay, speaking of being back in the U.S., you are back for SheBelieves Cup. That's starting the day that this interview is dropping. The U.S. women's national team are going to play Colombia, Australia, and Japan in Houston, Texas, Glendale, Arizona, and finally in San Diego, California. I'm really, really excited to see these games, especially Australia. They've never been in this tournament before, and we so rarely get to see them play in America. I think it will also be really fun to play Colombia again, who everybody will remember the Gold Cup game from last year. It got pretty physical out there, and we saw Alex Morgan, number 7, just getting after it. Yeah. And then even Japan, who we just narrowly beat in the knockout stages of this year's Olympics. All really talented teams and exciting games. Lindsey, is there one game in particular that you're looking forward to?
Honestly, all of them are special in their own way and present different challenges. That's what I love about SheBelieves, is you always get a mix of, what teams that you're playing against and like high quality teams as well. I love playing against Japan just because they are so good and so technical and tactically sound. Like, that was one of the hardest games during the Olympics, and we knew it was. And we kind of, we gutted that one out and like have, this freaking glory goal from Trin. So I would love to see like us, pose different problems to them and see if we can, fine tune some of our styles and how we're playing and whatnot. So I'm really excited for that. And obviously it's the third game. So hopefully we've won the first 2 and that could be a championship game, but
and that, see. You know what? That could be Sonnet's 8th SheBelieves Cup victory.
Dude, that's more important, right?
I think so. Honestly, for me, obviously. There is nothing more important than the Sonnet Believes Cup.
Yeah.
Getting her big number 8. Okay, so this SheBelieves is also the first tournament for the U.S. since winning gold this summer in Paris. That was nearly a perfect run for the team. Nothing but wins. Only gave up 2 goals the whole time. When we last spoke on the podcast, Lindsey, the only major global tournament you had been team captain for was the 2023 World Cup. When you put the armband back on this summer, did you feel an added pressure knowing what had happened the summer before, or did something just kind of click and feel different?
It was such a big change, but just in so many ways. Like, I think my relationship with Emma had to be like fast forward, develop really, really quick. Mm-hmm. And so I think that kind of got rid of everything that happened prior in 2023 in the World Cup and how things were managed then. And I kind of had to flip my brain, and I was just like, okay, I'm not going to compare anything to prior relationships with coaches or players or leadership groups, whatever. Like, this is a new team. This is a new way of playing and a new style and culture and standards and expectations. And so that I had to really get to know Emma and, give her my trust and her earn mine. And it was so cool. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was really, really special for me. But also, like, being a captain during the Olympics is like, I'm not going to cry.
Gosh.
It's so special.
I could cry. I mean, being captain in and of itself, I think, on this team, which I know how much it means to you and you know how much the national team means to me, it's such an incredible accomplishment and responsibility. And I always kind of talk about the idea of constantly feeling like you're trying out for the national team and not being really on it ever. But I think that being captain, it's not that you suddenly are like skating by and getting automatic starts or call-ins or whatever, but you've earned like a unique place of importance on the team. And I just think it must have been so special to you. I think because I know how much the team means to you.
Yeah. It's funny about what you just said. I still remember every conversation I had with Becky Sauerbrunn about like camp approaching and her being like, well, if I get called in, and I'm like,
Reba, you're going.
Yeah. But I really, really appreciate that. And I always remember it thinking about like a camp, and I'm like, this isn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
Even if I'm wearing the armband or not, it's not guaranteed I'm going to start. Nothing is guaranteed. And I love that
mindset.
That Becky gave me that.
I always reference that, and I totally agree. We're kind of thinking back again on like how good it felt at the Olympics. Everyone who talks about the tournament, everyone who talks about Emma is like, yeah, it was just people said that like it wasn't that stressful. People said things were just going well. Like my kind of understanding of a world tournament is that like every day is like scary and stressful. And the girls that I've talked to were kind of like, it didn't feel like that. It felt like we were just going and doing it. It felt good. And I'm curious if you have like an example or a story of what that felt like being captain of a team where everything was going well compared to what it felt like being part of a team where things just didn't click or aren't going well.
I had many conversations with Emma about this, because there were times during the Olympics where you know how it is. There's a lot of behind the scenes things that are very stressful and you don't want the team to see. And, coaching staff goes through that, captain goes through that, leadership group goes through that. And they're always little tiny things. But as long as that stays away from the team and we can keep moving forward in a good way, that's the most important part. Even if Emma and I have to take on a lot, or coaching staff has to take on a lot, I think that was the biggest thing for me, is like I would hear that from players and I'm like, okay, we're doing a good job, and Emma's doing a good job, and the coaching staff is doing a good job, because maybe we just had a really stressful situation, but Emma didn't show any of that shit.
Wow.
Nothing. Or like even on the field, it's like you would look at the sideline and you would see the whole bench super positive, like we always are, and cheering and encouraging, even in a really tough moment, or maybe we're not playing the absolute best, but we're trying. And then you see Emma and she's so calm and composed, and I'm like, I need to be like that right now on the field as well. And that's my job. And I think that was one of the most special things, without like going into much detail, because it was still like a very joyful tournament for me, even though there were, things behind the scenes and whatnot. I had so much enjoyment and laughter, and that's crazy. It's never, you can ask so many players, and this, like during tournaments, like it is not like that usually. Like you find it every now and then, but like you're so stressed, so nervous, so, there's just so much pressure, but it was very calm.
So I love hearing you talk about this, because there is a part of me that's like 2019, we did have a little bit of like, this is so fun, and we were young, and like what I'm reading into it now is that we had great leadership that took the brunt of what was difficult. And I think what it sounds like is Emma and you are setting this example of leadership that's like, we're going to, in these moments of high intensity and high pressure, we're going to deal with the hard stuff. Everybody else's job is to go out and play. And there was this really incredible moment at a press conference after you guys won, where you and Emma were addressing the media, and Emma spoke beautifully about what you bring to the team as a leader. She said, quote, "You don't see all the work she does off the pitch. You don't see all the conversations she has. She's the leader of this team. She made my job so much easier. I'm delighted for Lindsey because she deserves that, but doesn't always get the credit she deserves. It's been an honor for me to work with her." And I can see you're emotional now, and you were emotional then, Lindsey, because again, I know what this means to you, but I want others to understand why hearing that from Emma made you break down, and why you were so visibly affected by it.
Yeah, I think, well, one, I don't think I had my best tournament. I thought I was pretty shit, to be honest. No, sorry, shit for my standards.
Okay.
I also think like there's a little extra pressure that I put on myself where I'm like, I need to be at my absolute best every single game and every single training session. And like, I have to be a role model in that sense, because like when I've looked at past captains, past leaders, like most of the time they're always on, and they have to be on, and body language has to be on, and positivity and standards, all these things, they have to be on. And so it is a lot during a major tournament to be on all the time. And like, there was a part of me where I was like, I feel like I fell short a little bit just in my game. Whether that's true or not, like, I know I was not the best player that I could be during that tournament, but I know I did a lot of good things, and I know I did a lot of good things off the field, and no one sees that, you know? But Emma obviously recognizing it and sharing it with the public, she didn't have to do that. I didn't absolutely need that. Like, she could have had this individual conversation with me and I would have really taken that in. But I think it is really special that she did do that. And for people to understand that there is a lot that goes into being in this role, and even for her as well. And again, I remember talking to Becky one time. I take a lot from Becky where
don't we all?
Yeah. She was like, you know, being a captain, being a leader on this team can be a very lonely place. Because you can't always share things. You can't always talk about certain things, and your relationship is with the coach, or, you know, in a small group with your leadership group, because you want to take that away from the team and make sure they're at their best, you know. That's where I got very emotional. I was still emotional now, because I know I did the best job that I could, and I tried so hard to make sure everything was good for the players. Hopefully they felt that, and hopefully that, you know, helped them on the field as well.
It makes a lot of sense, Lindsey. Like, I think that as a younger player on the national team, and this was kind of always my experience on the national team, you kind of have to be like a little bit selfish or like self-centered. My performance is what I'm worried about. Like, I'm earning my place on this team. I'm serving my own goal. I'm trying to earn a starting spot. And I never got to this place really where I had to step outside myself and concern myself with how number 18 and number 19 on the roster are feeling, and how the coach is interacting with the team, and how the media is interacting with the coach, and how we're traveling to, like, you took on this bigger role as captain that you did have so much else to focus on. And I almost see it as like a 180 from that younger, more self-focused version of a player. How did you like adjust to what you had to grow in empathy and like grow in your awareness of what was going on? How did you adjust to that role and like putting the team before yourself?
I feel like I always had it in me where I'm like, you know, recognizing certain things, recognizing certain situation, you know, what's best for the team here, what maybe I need to go talk to Emma about this, like things that maybe I would have done prior, but I didn't feel like this was my place to speak about it. My voice isn't going to help. Let me go tell Becky or Pino, and now it's like, okay, that's me. And it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not being selfish right now. I'm trying to do what is best for the team. And whether that's like, hey, Emma, we need a meeting off today, or Emma coming to me and asking a question and me just being flat out honest with her.
Yeah.
I told her we need an honest relationship, and that anything I'm saying is literally just, I want to do the best for the team, and for her, it's the same thing with me. So I think that was my little switch, was just like, I need to have a voice. I need to make sure that I'm standing up for the things that I think are very important for the team, but also like making sure the team is in a place where it's like, hey, they want this, or medical wants this, or whatever, do it. Like the certain things where I'm like, hey, we're still respectful. We're still holding standards, like those kind of things. Can I do that with the team as well, and make sure I gain their respect and trust? So yeah, it had to happen very quickly.
Yeah. It also sounds a little bit like you had to trust yourself that your feedback and your opinion and your read on things was right. And I'm going to go forward with this because I trust that I understand what's going on here. I think that must have been a big step as well, to be like, I am captain. I trust what I'm saying, and I'm going to go to the whatever party I have to go to with this opinion or information.
You know, at the beginning of the tournament, I was just like, okay, I need a a group around me that I can go to if there are certain situations. So I had a lot of help, from Nay, Alyssa, Rose, Crystal, getting their opinions as well and making sure I'm not going into it blind and reading a situation wrong. I think that was one of the things that I had a conversation with Alyssa early on, was like, you have to be able to delegate certain things and not just take on absolutely everything, which it's hard too, because you don't want to freaking overwhelm this group, but you need their help sometimes. So they're great for me to like bounce ideas off of or just come to before I went and did something.
For sure. That support is really important. I only have 2 more questions, Lindsey. You're coming off this gold medal win, and we're approaching this 2-year period with no major international tournaments, but instead smaller tournaments like this one that is coming up right now, SheBelieves. What do you think is Emma and the team's top priority going into opportunities like this? Obviously, I know the U.S. Women's National Team is always wanting to win everything, but what else do you think the team is looking to focus on with these opportunities over the next 2 years?
As you know, this is like really the beginning of the cycle. And I think first and foremost, Emma was like the Futures Camp and that Women's National Team camp in January. Like, I need to see players. I need to get the pool. I need to know who's out there and who's not yet at the level, or who's at the level, who is 100% like they are in the running for this World Cup. Like, I just need to know my players. And I think that was crucial for her, and to set those standards, culture, everything. And now I think it's like every moment that we have together is so, so crucial. And you look at the next 2.5 years, I think 2.5 years. Yeah. There's not that many camps. Like, it goes by really, really quick. And so each moment is a moment for us to develop. Like this, Emma did not have any bit of this time prior to the Olympics, and now she has this time. So I think it's really like, hey, this is how we're going to play. This is our style. This is our culture. Like, setting all of these standards for what we're doing, and developing our players, but developing us as a team as well. I think that's the most important. And seeing like, hey, how can we play? What can we still use from, past generations, and what makes this national team so good? And you know that just as well as I do. And then making sure that we keep that mentality where each tournament that we're going to, we want to win it. And we speak so much about developing, but it doesn't freaking matter when we step out on the field. First game against Colombia, we want to go out and win. And so we're going to do whatever we possibly can to win. And that mentality better be there for every game.
I'd love to hear it. Well, Lindsey, you're like a very European player. I kind of think of you as like more of a footballer than really anybody else I know. You're like I think of you as like a purist. Like, you just love the game. You love the classic parts of the game. There's so much about you that makes you suited to have this role of captain on the U.S. Women's National Team. On the field, you're relentless. You never give up. You are so technical. You are so talented. You read the game so well. And in so many ways now, when I think of you as a leader, I think about what you're doing off the field. And I think about, you mentioned this earlier, you were in London when Naomi Girma was unveiled at Chelsea, cheering her on. We have this kind of trend where American players, U.S. Women's National Team players, are going and playing abroad and taking the kind of chances that you have always been so supportive of and so willing to take yourself. And you're so uniquely positioned to help guide their journey. And so I think I'm just wondering what it means to you to be in this position, to lead the team and to offer support to your teammates. And how does that affect the type of captain? How does that make you think about the type of captain that you are and that you want to be?
Well, first off, that was so nice of you. Thank you. I think I've experienced both. I think I've experienced obviously going overseas at 18, and then I've experienced going back to the US and playing in that league for 6 years, and then coming back over to Europe. So I think that experience in itself, hopefully that shows the players like, hey, I can trust her with her opinion and her advice and whatnot. And I think the biggest thing for me is like, I never try to push one thing or another. Like, I obviously knew Naomi could potentially come to Lyon, and I wanted that so bad, but I was like, I want the best for you, and what you think is the best challenge, and what is going to make you the most happy. And yeah, I like, this needs to be your decision. And I think my biggest role is like, hey, can I speak from my experience, but not push someone in one way or the other? I would always say, like, challenge yourself and, do what like I always say, do what's best for your career. And I know sometimes it's like, when I'm saying that, is that the right thing to say? Because maybe in their life, like that's not the best thing and they're not happy and whatnot. But that's always how I look about it. And I want to make sure people understand that. Like I'm away from my husband, I'm away from my family, and it's really, really hard. But I know this is right now the best thing for Lindsey Heaps. So I think that's my way of pushing players and making sure that I'm not giving the wrong bits of advice and always just being there for the conversation and helping guide. But I just want players to develop in their own way and be able to make their own decisions with some guided help.
Well, I'm glad it's you that's in this position that is so well prepared to give this kind of advice to other players. I think the national team is in such great hands. I have really loved this chat and getting to catch up with you, Lindsey. I have so much respect for you.
It's over?
It's over.
Lame.
I know. I mean, we can keep going, but I ran out of questions.
Oh, I miss you.
Oh my God, I know. I miss you too. I hope I can come to some games this year, or maybe like a Champions League game. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be fun?
We can do this in person.
I would.
You don't have to wait a year.
Love to do this in person. I also am like literally putting you down for February 2026. It'll be so fun. We'll make it a little annual.
I would love that.
Thank you so much for doing this, Lindsey. I'm so proud of you, and
of course,
I love chatting. What a fun interview. I just love chatting with Lindsey so much. I feel so proud of all of my friends who are still playing, learning, and growing with each new tournament. Lindsey has come so far, and I'm already excited to have her back on the show in February of 2026. Also, like I said, Lindsey was my first ever interview for the women's game. I have grown a lot, I think. So shout out to me and the TWG team and to all of the listeners who have been on this journey with us for this very full circle moment. I am so appreciative of all of you. So thank you so much. We've been really putting a lot of thought into our newsletter in 2025 so far. So I highly encourage you to make sure that you are subscribed to that. I know we all get too many emails, but this one is special. Every week I write a special introduction to all of you, and then we pack in all of the women's soccer updates from around the world, and we usually shout out an email from all of you as well. It's a great way to stay caught up with the news, but also to keep an eye on all of our content that's dropping that week. So if you're not already getting it, sign up for the Women's Game newsletter at the link tree in our social media bios. Thank you all again, seriously, for being a part of this with us. We will see you all tonight on TWG's YouTube channel right after the national team games final whistle, and then we'll see you again in the same place on Sunday. Thanks for being here. Bye.